Today, there are 2.2 million people behind bars in America, and millions more on parole or probation. Every year, we spend $80 billion in taxpayer dollars to keep people incarcerated. Many are nonviolent offenders serving unnecessarily long sentences. I believe we can disrupt the pipeline from underfunded schools to overcrowded jails. I believe we can address the disparities in the application of criminal justice, from arrest rates to sentencing to incarceration.
I love it. Don't you love it? Let the criminals go. Oh my gosh. All right, joining us now, I hope Hillary runs on that. Joining us now on the Malzberg panel is David Swerdlick, assistant editor of PostEverything at the Washington Post, and Larry Elder, radio host of the Larry Elder Show. Okay, Larry, you were laughing. I'm crying and laughing at the same time, because I know on his way out the door he's going to pardon tens of thousands of people. But this is insanity, is it not?
Well, it is. First of all, our schools are not underfunded. We spend more K through 12 than any other country on the face of the earth other than Switzerland and Luxembourg. The problem is we need more fathers. There's a connection between the lack of fathers in the household and crime. And frankly, putting people behind bars is a bargain when you consider how much crime and the cost of crime that's committed by people who are outside. So it's nonsense. And the idea that a whole bunch of people are there having committed no violent offense is nonsense. There's a small percentage of them who are there for drug-related offenses, but even those have been knocked down often for more violent offenses. These are bad guys who've done bad things to good people.
Right. And David, he wants to imprison fewer of them and let those who are in there out. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, why are we putting all of this on Obama? First of all, to Larry's point, the president has spoken throughout his presidency about the importance of fatherhood, about the importance of personal responsibility, much to the consternation of some of his progressive critics, and conservatives give him no credit for it. He talks about it all the time. Second of all, with regard to these inmates, the inmates that are being released over the next several days are being released as a result of guidelines changing by the U.S. Sentencing Commission. Yes, the president is in favor of it, Steve, but this is not his unilateral decision. Unilaterally using his powers of the presidency, he's only, I think I read today, 89 people have had their sentences
No. I'm
saying
this guy at the end of his presidency will pardon and release as many people as he can.
That's just you're guessing what he's going to do 15 months from now.
Yeah, I know who he is in his heart and soul. Let me let you hear about these low-level, non-violent offenders that Obama wants to let out of prison and who are there unfairly. Let's listen to NYPD Commissioner William Bratton on John Casamatidi's radio show over the weekend.
There's a major effort underway to let a lot of people out of jail, ostensibly less violent offenders. But one of the issues of concern is when people go to jail, oftentimes they go to jail with negotiated charges, if you will, so that somebody that is in jail that seems that they're a nonviolent drug offender may in fact have crimes of violence in their record. So we have to be very concerned about who we're letting out.
Larry?
Yeah, that's what I just now said. And to David's point, it is true that Obama has from time to time talked about the problem of lack of fathers in the home. On the other hand, he then talks about mass incarceration. So he talks out of both sides of his mouth. If he really wants to do something about the lack of fathers, he should do something about the welfare state that he wants to expand. What's happened is women have married the government and men have abandoned their financial and moral responsibility because of the welfare state. Has Obama talked about cutting down the welfare state? Hell no, he wants to expand it.
David?
Even if I were to concede that point to Larry, as if that started under President Obama. I mean, it just doesn't. It clearly it did not. We have always had a social safety net. The president took over during a recession. Yes, there has been an increase in things like an increase in use of food stamps. We can't let people starve in the society. Back to the criminal justice reform. Look, I do think you have a point. Politicians on both sides of the aisle may live to regret this, Steve. If someone gets out who supposedly had a nonviolent crime that plea bargained, as the commissioner said, and if someone commits a crime after being released, yeah, politicians are going to have to face that backlash. But again, let's not act like this is something that Obama is doing unilaterally. It has bipartisan support.
No, I didn't say he's doing it unilaterally. I was predicting what he's going to do on the way out. But I want to point out there's this new movement, Block the Box, Block the Box. Yeah. Obama doesn't want, David, anymore to have, were you ever convicted of a federal crime on a job application? So you might be looking for a bank teller, and you might be interviewing a bank robber, and you're not allowed to know it, David. Isn't that wonderful?
This is for federal employment, not for work at a bank. That's what he's pushing.
So you believe that that's okay?
No, I'm just saying the bank teller is not the right example. Look, again, this has bipartisan support. Does it have the potential to backfire on the president and politicians in both parties? Yeah, I agree with you, it does. But this is the way people are going. There is a broad consensus that they want to reduce the prison population.
Larry, we got 20 seconds. Another reason not to own a business or set up shop.
Yeah, can you imagine hiring somebody who's been a convicted felon and hiring them anyway, and God forbid the felon should steal or hurt somebody on the job? You're going to be held liable.
Yeah, only in the Obama nation. All right, we're coming back with part 2 of the panel. Don't go away. And we are back with part 2 of the Malzberg panel. David Swerdlick and Larry Elder. And let me start with you, David. Quentin Tarantino, film director, has felt a lot of hot water that he put himself in by basically calling police officers murderers. There's been an organized effort throughout Hollywood and elsewhere, and police forces and commissioners around the country really speaking out and wanting to ban his movies and lead boycotts of his movies. He has a new one coming out. A lot of people think that's why he might have done it in the first place. He's expected, if he hasn't already today, to apologize for those comments, according to therap.com. What's your take? Did he go too far?
Well, he definitely went too far, Steve, because it's irresponsible to call police or anyone else murderers if they haven't been charged or convicted of murder. I mean, that's sort of an easy one there. But I don't think there's a problem with him or any other celebrity speaking out on the issue of police brutality if they feel strongly about it. And there clearly is an issue right now in our society with police brutality. But I do think it's incumbent upon someone like Tarantino, especially a star who has a big microphone, to, think through their comments and speak, with a sober tone on it. It just, murderer is too far.
Larry?
Well, when your own father criticizes you for calling cops murderers, you've probably gone too far. Specifically, he was talking about the Baltimore cops involved in the death of Freddie Gray. And as David pointed out, they haven't even been charged yet, let alone convicted. But David suggests that there is a problem with police brutality. I don't think there is. There is an occasional instance where an officer has gone too far. We ought to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Twice as many whites are killed by cops than blacks. We have this silly Black Lives Matter movement sparked by the Ferguson event. And it turns out that Michael Brown didn't have his hands up, was not running away. So the whole thing has been overblown, and as a result, good people are being killed, including cops.
All right, before we relitigate Ferguson, which I always want to do, but I don't have time, what's interesting, and a side note here, the police officer who was fired in South Carolina, David, for arresting that girl in class, students walked out in protest of his firing from that school last week, wearing T-shirts supporting the police officer. That got such a little tiny bit of scant attention, I can't tell you.
All right, so let's not relitigate Michael Brown or Eric Garner, which, you and I have always disagreed on that one, Steve. On the South Carolina case, if students want to support that resource officer, if they feel like something different happened there, I don't have any problem with students expressing their views and expressing their feelings toward the school or the school district or what went down. That being said, we all saw that videotape. In my personal view, the police officer did not act appropriately. Was it a crime? That's up for a DA and an indictment and a jury to decide. But in terms of how he did his job improperly. That's a child. You don't throw them to the floor and then throw them across the room.
Larry, I don't know how old that kid was, but I have trouble finding it. I think they were 18. It was, they say, senior in high school. It was a high school. So I don't think whether it's 17 or 18, you call it a child anymore.
Certainly 17.
Go ahead, Larry.
I can't figure out exactly what the officer should have done. Should he have used rubber bullets? Should he have tased her? Pepper spray? I'm not exactly sure how you would have done it.
And more importantly, de-escalate the situation.
More importantly, the reason this is an issue is because the cop was white, the girl was black. Here in California, in Sacramento, just a few days ago,
the principal got
body slammed by a black student. Where was CNN? Where was MSNBC? Where?
Larry and David, that's acceptable. That's what they would rather have seen happen. That's okay. And if the principal got killed, guess what? It would have been a tragedy. But don't arrest someone who's breaking the law because they're a little child, right, David?
The officer's job in that situation is to de-escalate. Unless there's a threat that the student presents, a threat of harm to the officer or the other
and
students.
That threat, and David, that threat is presented. That threat is presented.
That is not established.
Let me explain.
Throwing the child trapped in the desk to the
All
floor,
right. David,
throwing her across the floor,
David,
trapped in the desk.
David, that threat
She's
is
handcuffed to the desk.
David, the threat is presented once the child disobeys the police's order to be arrested.
And the teacher and the administrator.
I don't think most parents in this country would
be
okay with that.
I don't care what. Wait, guys, one at a time. I don't care what they feel. If an officer is going to arrest you, you comply, or you're going to be forcefully arrested. And guess what? At that point, since that person's a threat, disobeying authority 3 times, you don't know if that person has a weapon or is a danger. You need to search them. How do you do that? When their hands are behind their back. So the officer, in my view, and in the view of many officers, acted properly.
Absolutely. If I had a teenage daughter and she was disobeying, I would be okay with her being punished, disciplined, suspended, etc., not being thrown to the floor by a cop who's twice
then she shouldn't resist arrest. I would want my son to suffer.
And I think most parents in this country
consequence.
agree with me.
Well, yeah, I believe you're wrong. Larry, final word.
Final word is the cop did exactly what he was supposed to do. The teacher asked the girl to leave. She wouldn't leave. Administrator asked her to leave. She wouldn't leave. The administrator called the cop knowing full well the cop was going to use force to get her to leave. The cop did exactly what he should have done. The firing is unfair. He's going to win the lawsuit.
I hope so. Hey, guys, great spirited debate. David Swerdlick, Larry Elder, thank you both so much. Appreciate it. All right, folks, up next, it's Gimme 5, The View, what they said about Carly Fiorina. If you missed it, make sure you watch this.